June 12, 1942. I hope I'll be able to confide everything to you as I have never been able to confide in anyone. And I hope you will be a great source of comfort and support. Sunday, June 14, 1942. I'll begin from the moment I got you. The moment I saw you lying on the table among my other birthday presents, I went along when you were bought, but that doesn't count. On Friday, June 12, I was awake at 6 o'clock, which isn't surprising since it was my birthday, but I'm not allowed to get up at that hour. So I had to control my curiosity until 6:45. When I couldn't wait any longer, I went to the dining room, where Murthy, the cat, welcomed me by rubbing against my legs. A little after 7, I went to Daddy and Mama, and then to the living room to open my presents. And you were the first thing I saw. Maybe one of my nicest presents. Then a bouquet of roses, some peonies, and a potted plant from Daddy and Mama. I got a blue blouse, a game, a bottle of grape juice, which to my mind tastes a bit like wine. After all, wine is made of grapes. A puzzle, a jar of cold cream, 2.5 guilders, and a gift token for 2 books. I got another book as well, Camera Obscura. But Margot already has it, so I exchanged mine for something else. A platter of homemade biscuits, which I made myself, of course, since I have been quite an expert in baking biscuits. Lot of sweets and strawberry tart from mother, and a letter from granny. Right on time. But of course, that was just a coincidence. Then Hannely came to pick me up, and we went to school. During recess, I handed out biscuits to my teachers and my class, and then it was time to get back to work. I didn't arrive home until 5. Since I went to gym with the rest of the class, I'm not allowed to take part because my shoulders and hip tend to get dislocated. As it was my birthday, I got to decide which game my classmates would play, and I chose volleyball. Afterward, they all danced around me in a circle and sang happy birthday. When I got home, Sanne Liederman was already there. Ise Wagnet, Hanneli Gosler, and Jacqueline Van Marsen came home with me after gym. Since we are in the same class, Hanneli and Sanne used to be my two best friends. People who saw us together used to say, "There goes Annie, Hanny, Sanny." And I only met Jacqueline Van Marsen when I started at the Jewish Lyceum. And now she's my best friend. Isse is Hanley's best friend, and Sanne goes to another school and has friends there. They have me a beautiful book. They gave me a beautiful book, Dutch Sagas and Legends. But they gave me volume 2 by mistake, so I exchanged 2 other books for volume 1. Aunt Helen brought me a puzzle. Aunt Stephanie is a darling brooch, and Aunt Lenny a terrific book. Daisy goes to the mountain. This morning, I lay in the bath thinking how wonderful it would be if I had a dog like Rin Tin Tin. I'd call him Rin Tin Tin too. And I would take him to school with me, and he could stay in the janitor's room or by the bicycle racks when the weather was good. Monday, June 15. 1942. I had my birthday party on Sunday afternoon. The Rin Tin Tin film was a big hit with my classmates. I got two brooches, a bookmark, and two books. I'll start by saying a few things about my school and my class, beginning with other children. Betty Blumendel looks rather poor, and I think she probably is. She lives in an obscure street in West Amsterdam, and none of us know where is it. Where it is. She does very well at school, but that's because she works so hard, not because she's clever. She's pretty quiet. Jacqueline Van Marsen is supposedly my best friend, but I have never had a real friend. At first, I thought Jack would be one, but I was badly mistaken. DQ is a very nervous girl who always forgetting things, so the teachers keep giving her extra homework as punishment. She is very kind, especially to GZ. ES talks so much it isn't funny. She's always touching your hair or fiddling with your buttons when she asks you something. They say she can't stand me, but I don't care, since I don't like her much either. Henny Metz is a nice girl with a cheerful disposition, except that she talks in a loud voice. And in reality, she's really childish when we are playing outdoors. Unfortunately, Henny has a girlfriend named Beppy who's bad influence on her because she's dirty and vulgar. JR. I could write a whole book about her. J is detestable, sneaky, stuck up, two faced gossip who thinks she's so grown up. She's really got Jack under her spell, and that's a shame. Jay is easily offended, bursts into tears at the slightest thing, and to top it all, is a terrible show off. Miss J always has to be right. She's very rich, has a wardrobe full of most adorable dresses that are much too old for her. She thinks she's gorgeous, but she's not. G and I can't stand each other. Easily, Ilse Wagner. Ilse Wagner is a nice girl with a cheerful disposition, but she is extremely finicky and can spend hours moaning and groaning about something. Ilse likes me a lot. She's clever but lazy. Hanneli Goslar, or Lies, as she's called at school, is a bit on the stranger side. She's usually shy, outspoken at home, but reserved with other people. She blabs whatever you tell her to her mother, but she says what she thinks. And lately, I have come to appreciate her a great deal. Nanny Van Prague cigar is small, funny, sensible. I think she's nice, but pretty clever. There isn't much else you can say about Nanny. Ify De Jong is, in my opinion, terrific. Though she's only 12, she's quite a lady. She treats me like a baby. She's also very helpful and I like her. GZ is the prettiest girl in our class. She has a nice face but a bit stupid. I think They are going to hold her back a year. But of course, I haven't told her that. And sitting next to GZ in the class of us 12 girls, me. There's a lot to be said about the boys, or maybe not so much after all. Maurice Coster is one of my many admirers, but pretty much of a pest. Sally Springer has a filthy mind, and rumor has it that he's gone all the way. Still, I think he's terrific because he's funny. Emil Bonnevet is GZ's admirer, but she doesn't care. He's pretty boring. Rob Cohen used to be in love with me too, but I can't stand him anymore. He is obnoxious, two-faced, lying, sniveling little twit who has an awfully high opinion of himself. Max van de Wilde is a farm boy from Medemblik, but a decent sort, as Margaret would say. Herman Koopman also had a filthy mind, just like Jopi de Beer, who is a terrible flirt and a girl chaser. Leo Bloom is Jopi de Beer's best friend, but has been spoiled by her dirty mind. Albert de Mesquita came from the Montessori school and jumped a year. He's really clever. Leo Slager came from the same school but isn't as clever. Rue Stoppelman is a short, goofy boy from Almelo who transferred to his school in the middle of the year. CN does whatever he's not supposed to. Jake's Cossernote sits behind us next to C and V. G and I laugh ourselves stupid. Harry Sharp is the most decent boy in our class. He's nice. Werner Joseph is nice too, but all the changes takes place lately have made him too quiet. So he seems boring. Sam Solomon is one of those tough guys from the rough part of the town, a real brat. Admirer. Appy Ream is pretty orthodox, but a brat too. Saturday, June 20, 1942. Writing in a diary is a really strange experience for someone like me. Not only because I have never written anything before, but also because it seems to me that the later on neither I nor anyone else would be interested in the musings of a 13-year-old schoolgirl. Oh well, it doesn't matter. I feel like writing. I have an even greater need to get all kinds of things off my chest. Paper has more patience than people. I thought of this saying on one of those days when I was feeling a little depressed and was sitting at home with my chin in my hands, bored and listless, wondering whether to stay in or go out. I finally stayed where I was brooding. Yes, paper does have more patience. And since I was not planning to let anyone else read this stiff backed notebook, grandly referred to as the diary, unless I should ever find a real friend, it probably wouldn't make a bit of difference. Now I'm back to the point that prompted me to keep a diary in the first place. I don't have a friend. Let me put it more clearly. Since no one will believe that a 13-year-old girl is completely alone in the world, and I'm not. I have loving parents and a 16-year-old sister, and there are about 30 people I can call friends. I have a throng of admirers who can't keep their adoring eye off me and who sometimes have to resort to using a broken pocket mirror to try and catch a glimpse of me in the classroom. I have a family, loving aunts, and good home. No, on the surface, I seem to have everything except one true friend. All I think about All I think about when I'm with my friends is having a good time. I can't bring myself to talk about anything but ordinary everyday things. We don't seem to be able to get any closer, and that's the problem. Maybe it's my fault that we don't confide in each other. In any case, that's just how things are, and unfortunately, they are not liable to change. This is why I've started to write a diary. To enhance the image of this long awaited friend in my imagination, I don't want to jot down the facts in the diary the way most people would do, but I find I want the diary to be my friend, and I am going to call this friend Kitty. Since no one would understand a word of my stories to Kitty, if I were to plunge right in, I would better provide a brief sketch of my life, much as I dislike doing so. My father, the most adorable father I have ever seen, didn't marry my mother until he was 36 and she was 25. My sister Margaret was born in Frankfurt am Main in Germany in 1926. I was born in 12th June 1929. I lived in Frankfurt until I was 4. Because we are Jewish, my father immigrated to Holland in 1933 when he became the managing director of Dutch Opekte Company, which manufactures products used in making of jam. My mother, Edith Hollander Frank, went with him to Holland in September, while Margaret and I were sent to Aachen to stay with my grandmother. Margaret went to Holland in December and I followed in February, when I was plunked down on the table as a birthday present for Margaret. I started right away in the Montessori nursery school. I stayed there until I was 6, at which time I started first form. In sixth in sixth form, my teacher was Mrs. Cooperus, the headmistress. At the end of the year, we were both in tears as we said a heartbreaking farewell, because I had been accepted in the Jewish Lyceum where Margaret also went to school. Our lives were not without anxiety. Since our relatives in the Germany are suffering under Hitler's anti-Jewish laws, after the pogroms in 1938, my two uncles, my mother's brothers, fled Germany, finding safe refuge in North America. My elderly grandmother came to live with us. She was 73 years old at that time. After May 1940, the good times were few and far between. First, there was the war, when the capitulation, and then the arrival of the Germans, which is when the trouble started for the Jews. Our freedom was severely restricted by a series of anti-Jewish decrees. Jews were required to wear a yellow star. Jews were required to turn in their bicycles. Jews were forbidden to use trams. Jews were forbidden to ride in cars, even in their own. Jews were required to do shopping between 3 to 5 pm. Jews were required to frequent only Jewish owned barber shop and beauty saloons. Jews were forbidden to be out on the streets between 8 pm to 6 am. Jews were forbidden to go to theaters, cinemas, or any other forms of entertainment. Jews were forbidden to use swimming pools, tennis courts, hockey fields, or any other athletic fields. Jews were forbidden to go rowing. Jews were forbidden to take part in any athletic activity in public. Jews were forbidden to sit in the gardens or those of their friends after 8 pm. Jews were forbidden to visit Christians in their homes. Jews were required to attend Jewish schools. You couldn't do this and you couldn't do that, but life went on. Jack always said to me, I don't care do anything more because I'm afraid it's not allowed. In summer of 1941, Grandma fell ill and had to have an operation. So my birthday passed with little celebration. In the summer of 1940, we didn't do much for my birthday either, since the fighting had just ended in Holland. Grandma died in January 1942. No one knows how. Often I think of her and still love her. This birthday celebration in 1942 was intended to make up for the others, and Grandma's candle was lit along the rest. The four of us are still doing well, and that brings to me to the present date of June 20, 1942, and solemn dedication of my diary. Dearest Kitty, let me get started right away. It's a nice and quiet now. Father and mother are out and Margaret has gone to play ping pong with some other young people at her friend Treese's house. I have been playing a lot of ping pong myself lately. So much that 5 of us girls have formed a club. It's called the Little Dipper -2. A really silly name, but it's based on a mistake. I wanted to give our club a special name, and because there is 5 of us, we came up with the idea of the Little Dipper. We thought it consisted of 5 stars, but we turned out to be wrong. It has 7, like the Big Dipper, which explains the -2. Ilse Wagner has a ping pong set, and the Wagners let us play in their big dining room whenever we wanted. Since we 5 ping pong players like ice cream, especially in the summer, and since you get hot playing ping pong, our games usually end with a visit to the nearest ice cream parlor that allows the Jews, either Oasis or Delphi. We have long since stopped hunting around for our purses or money. Most of the time it's too busy in the Oasis that we manage to find a few generous young men of our acquaintances or an admirer to offer us more ice cream than we could eat in a week. You are probably a little surprised to hear me talking about admirers at such a tender age. Unfortunately or not, as the case may be, the vice seems to be rampant in our school. As soon as a boy asks if he can bicycle home with me and we start talking, 9 times out of 10, I can be sure he'll become enamored on the spot and won't let me out of his sight for a second. His ardor eventually cools, especially since I ignore his passionate glances and pedal blithely on my way. If it gets so bad that they start rambling on about asking father's permission, I swerve slightly on my back, my saddle falls, and the young man feels obliged to get off his bike and hand it to me, by which I have switched the conversation to another topic. There are most innocent types. These are the most innocent types. Of course, there are those who blow you kisses or try to take hold of your arm. But they are definitely knocking on the wrong door. I get off my bike and either refuse to take further use of their company or act as if I'm insulted and tell them in no uncertain terms to go on their home without me. There you are. You have now laid the basis of our friendship until tomorrow. Sunday, June 21, 1942. Dearest Kitty, our entire class is quaking in its boots. The reason is, of course, its upcoming meeting in the teachers decide who will move up to the next form and who will be kept back. Half the class is making bets. GZ and I laugh ourselves silly at the two boys behind us, CN and Jack's Kusarnoot, who have staked their entire vacation saving on their bet. From morning to night, it's you are going to pass, no I am not, yes you are, no I am not. Even G's pleading glances and my angry outburst can't calm them down. If you ask me, there are so many dummies that about a quarter of the class should be kept back, but teachers are the most unpredictable creatures on earth. Maybe this time they'll be unpredictable in the right direction for a change. I'm not so worried about my girlfriends and myself. We'll make it. The only subject I'm not sure about is maths. Anyway, all we can do is wait until then. We keep telling each other not to lose heart. I get along pretty well with all my teachers. There are 9 of them, 7 men and 2 women. Mr. Keesing, the old fogey who teaches maths, was annoyed with me for ages because I talked so much. After several warnings, he assigned me an extra homework, an essay on the subject, a chatterbox. A chatterbox? What can you write about that? I'd worry about that later. I decided. I jotted down the title on my notebook, tucked it in my bag and tried to keep quiet. That evening, after I finished the rest of my homework, the note about the essay caught my eye. I began thinking about the subject while chewing the tip of my fountain pen. Anyone could ramble on and leave big spaces between words, but the trick was to come up with the convincing arguments to prove the necessity of talking. I thought, and suddenly I had an idea. I wrote the 3 pages. Mr. Kissing had assigned me was satisfied. I argued that talking is a female trait and that I would do my best to keep it under control. But that I would never be able to break myself of the habit since my mother talked as much as I did, if not more, and that there's not much you can do about inherited traits. Mr. Kessing had a good laugh at my arguments, but when I proceeded to talk my way through the next lesson, he assigned me a second essay. This time it was supposed to be on an incorrigible chatterbox. I handed it in, and Mr. Kissing had nothing to complain about 2 whole lessons. However, during the third lesson, he would finally had enough. Anne Frank, as punishment for talking in my class, write an essay entitled "Quack Quack Quack," said Mistress Chatterback. The class roared. I had to laugh too, though I had nearly exhausted my ingenuity on the topic of chatterboxes. It was time to come up with something else, something original. My friend San, who's good at poetry, offered me to help me write the essay from the beginning to the end in verse. I jumped for joy. Kissing was trying to play a joke on me with his ridiculous subject, but I'd make a joke. Joke was on him. I finished my poem and it was beautiful. It was about a mother duck and a father swan with their 3 baby ducklings who were bitten to death by the father because they quacked too much. Luckily, Kissing took the joke the right way. He read the poem in the class, adding his own comments and to several other classes as well. Since then, I have been allowed to talk and haven't been assigned any extra homework. On the contrary, Kissing always makes jokes these days. Yours, Annie. Wednesday, June 24, 1942. Dearest Kitty, it's sweltering. Everyone is huffing and puffing, and in this heat, I have to walk everywhere. Only now do I realize how pleasant a tram is. But we Jews are no longer allowed to make use of this luxury. Our own 2 feet are good enough for us. Yesterday, at lunchtime, I had an appointment with the dentist on Jan Leukenstraat. It's a long way from our school on Stadstinsmeerstuinen. That afternoon, I nearly fell asleep at my desk. Fortunately, people automatically offer you something to drink. The dental assistant is really kind. The only mode of transportation left to us is the ferry. The ferryman is Joseph Israelkade, who took us across when we asked him to. It's not the fault of the Dutch that we Jews are having such a bad time. I wish I didn't have to go to school. My bike was stolen during the Easter holidays, and my father gave mother's bike to some Christian friend for safekeeping. Thank goodness summer holidays are almost here. 1 more week and our torment will be over. Something unexpected happened yesterday morning. As I was passing the bicycle racks, I heard my name being called. I turned around and there was a nice boy I had met this evening before at my friend Vilma's. He's Vilma's second cousin. I used to think Vilma was nice, which she is, but all she ever talks about is boys. And that gets to me a bore. He came towards me somewhat shyly and introduced himself as Hello Silberg. I was a little surprised and wasn't sure what he wanted, but it didn't take me long to find out. He asked if I would allow him to accompany me to school. As long as you're headed that way, I'll go with you, I said. And so we walked together. Hello is 16 and good at telling all kinds of funny stories. He was waiting for me again this morning, and I expected he will be from now on. Annie.